welcome to I'm a Fan of That Season 4 opening episode. The fact that we're still here and still doing this is a miracle to us both, I think. But I'm excited, Vivian's excited, we've had a little dance, we're ready to go. How have you been in the off time? I mean, not that we've had that much time off.
I have been okay.
Good.
I've been enjoying lots of lovely things that I'm excited to tell you about.
Ooh, that's excellent. I, unfortunately, had quite a bad span of burnout because I finished writing a massive project, started querying, and then my whole body went, oh, fuck, you're done? Right. Oh, you're not capable of anything for 2 months.
See, this is why I never stop doing things.
Yeah.
You can't get burnout if you're never done.
Unfortunately, my body is smarter than my brain and went, you can try and push through if you want, but we're not going to let you. And it was about a month and a half, 2 months of very slowly getting myself back together again, which is fine. But it wasn't fun. It wasn't super fun. But I was okay because I was rehearsing for a play at the same time. So at least I was active. So that was good. And I enjoyed it. And then I had a lovely time with lovely people. So I'm excited to hear about what you've been enjoying. Not burnout, thankfully.
No, not burnout. I have been enjoying sad boy folk-ish music.
Perfect. I want to listen to that.
Yep. So the new Noah Kahan album came out called The Great Divide. Yep. And when I was growing up, I really loved sad boy guitar music that you could listen to and weep, and that has, a lot of elements of my life has changed. That is not one of them.
See, I find it quite interesting because I quite liked angry folk boy guitar music. I was a Frank Turner person growing up, which is just sort of angry at everything. Despite the fact that he is far too posh to be actually angry. You think about that later.
I grew up on Damien Rice and Ray LaMontagne.
Ooh, right, yeah, proper sad boy folk guitar music. Yeah,
proper,
okay.
Yes. I love a song that you can put on and just weep. There was one we were I've just been only listening to Noah Kahan essentially, unless I'm working on the Taylor Swift project, and then I'm listening to Taylor Swift. But when it's just anything else, I've been listening to Noah Kahan pretty consistently, and even re-listening to Stick Season and stuff. And turns out that Tom hadn't heard any of the bonus tracks from Stick Season. So I found out, so we were listening to that, and one of them, literally every single, the other ones, it's like, oh, I'll cry a little bit if we're, like, talking about it. I cried the first time, but it's like, I've listened to this so many times now, I'm not, like, weeping every time I listen to it. But there's this one song called Call Your Mom, which is all about, he's basically singing to someone with depression and suicidal tendencies, and is about, I will be there for you, I'll drive all night, I'll call your mom, I'll take care of you. And every single time, I'm literally like, we were listening to it last night, and I've heard this song like 3 times. I can't listen to it because I will literally just be sobbing, and I was literally like, like that kind of.
Yeah, I understand that.
So that's what I've been doing. No, but I'm really excited. I actually, when he first put out the new track, so it was when he was first publicizing it, he put out the title track, The Great Divide, and then announced he's doing this album. I immediately pre-ordered the vinyl.
Yay!
So I actually picked it up the day it came out, and I sat that weekend, Tom and I had already listened to it, because I went to a listening party, because that's the kind of, why doing a listening party to sad boy folk guitar music, I don't know why you would do that. It sounds fun, sounds like a riot, but
I love the fact that there is a listening party. I think that's brilliant in and of itself, because I think that's something that 100% needs to come back. It clearly is back, but like, it wasn't something that, say, I don't think we particularly, or at least I didn't particularly do in the noughties and the 2010s because of all the streaming stuff. But I think now people are coming back to like wanting full albums. I have been listening almost exclusively to West End Girl by Lily Allen, and now into that comes Ray's new album which came out in March. Which I can't remember exactly what
Click
the
Clack
album.
Symphony?
This album.
That's
this
the song.
music contains hope.
Yeah.
And both of them are concept albums, like high concept albums, and they are great. And you have to listen to them in order to really understand. I mean, they can be individual tracks, obviously, but to understand what they're about, you have to listen to them in order. And I'm really enjoying that people are coming back to this kind of, well, if you're going to stream it, you're going to listen to all of it. Fuck you. You know? And both of them released vinyls with them as well, which I may or may not have at least one ready winging its way to me. I was meant to get the Lily Allen pre-order, but something got messed up with the postage, and so I never received it. And so for a while I was like, okay, it wasn't meant to be, and now I'm like, but I do want
But
it.
I want it.
But I want it. Particularly since for Egg for their birthday got the entire Steven Universe soundtrack on vinyl, which is like 8 vinyls. And we've been listening to that, and it's just so fun being able to be like, and flip, and put Steven Universe back on, you know. So we have a lot of vinyls, and almost all of them are nerdy. Almost exclusively, I think, apart from Chapel Roan. So there you go. That's what we have. We have like angry women music in our house. Angry, sad women music.
I have one of those.
It's like we've got Chapel Roan, Lily Allen, and Ray.
I've got I think probably because Florence and the Machine. I have Lungs. I've been meaning to get Dance Fever as well because I do like that
Egg's
one.
favorite album.
It's a very good album.
Yeah.
It inspired one of the fiction novels that I was writing. So I was listening to it a lot and then decided to get the vinyl.
Oh, how's your short story going, by the way? Completely off topic. We're just having a chat here today, guys.
Yeah.
How was your short story? Good.
Well, which one?
The one about the house.
I haven't rewritten it yet because I'm kind of caught up on the specifics of it. For people who are listening, I'm writing a short story where somebody falls in love with a haunted house.
It's very exciting.
And it's gonna be horror, but I'm structuring it like a rom-com basically, and I'm enjoying the process of it. But I've been kind of hung up on myself for it, so I haven't been working on it. I've been really struggling with fiction lately. I was just in North Wales. I was visiting Llandudno.
I saw. Yes.
Yes, I was there, and basically I was going to use it as a writing retreat, and I just really didn't feel excited about writing, which is not how I have been feeling lately, so...
I highly recommend taking 2 months off of everything because your body says, fuck you, and makes you stop.
I can't do that!
Because I came back with, I want to work on everything, which... is exciting. I'm working on several very weird, like crazy projects at the moment. None of which I can talk about because I'm on NDAs for all of them, which is exciting that they have an NDA. But like, I'm really excited by what I'm working on. I just can't tell anybody. I mean, I can. I could probably be like, I could talk a bit about it, but I'm not going to because I don't want to get in trouble.
I should create an NDA for my own project that only I sign, and that way I can be like, I'm sorry, I've signed an NDA.
Signed an NDA. No, I love that. But talking about things that made us cry, I went to see Paddington the musical.
Ooh.
And I sobbed, and Egg laughed at me because it's beautiful and hopeful and a massive middle finger up to certain right-wing politicians in this country and their beliefs. And I think it probably makes them quite angry, mostly because of how pro-immigration and anti-colonial it is as a piece of work. Because that's what Paddington is.
Because it's Paddington?
It's Paddington! Which has always been that.
Somebody, I saw a post where somebody was talking about how a load of the British icon fictional characters are all immigrants.
Yeah.
And they used Poirot as a war refugee and Paddington as like 2 of their examples. And somebody said, yeah, but Paddington came here legally. And somebody said, no, he didn't. He literally snuck on a boat.
Yeah. He literally came on a small boat. That's literally.
He was literally came on a boat.
Yeah, literally. And it's only because people forget that bit. They forget that he is literally an immigrant inspired by the stories of immigrant children in the Second World War and refugee children that's what he is inspired by.
Mm-hmm.
Like, refugees and immigrants. All the people around him are the thing that the musical does very well is properly highlight the fact that Mr. Gruber is a Jewish immigrant who escaped the Nazis, which made me weep because obviously the original books were written in the 1950s, and so he's an adult who escaped the Nazis in That book. But when you put that into the 2020s, he suddenly becomes a child who escaped the Nazis, who has then grown up in another country. And that is so heartbreaking when you put him in the situation where he is telling another child, because Paddington is a child, about his own, like, escaping his home, which has been destroyed, because I think people forget Paddington's home is destroyed by an earthquake, and in a lot of the modern retellings that is because of climate change. So he is a refugee from a man-made crisis in his home. And he talks to other refugees. And it's like... and one of the things I did for the musical as well is introduce some new characters. Tanya and her son, who I think is called Dean, who are from the Caribbean. And they're friends of the Browns. And they're very present. And they do a whole song about London. And the song is done as a Afro-Caribbean song with... done to the style of Notting Hill Carnival. Essentially, it's created to feel like that. And it's so cool about how, you know, London is this big melting pot and all this kind of stuff. And it's really very obvious what they're talking about, you know, about how this city is and how it was built and all this kind of thing. And then you have a song later, which is done sort of from the perspective of the Geographers Guild, which is obviously kind of meant to be they're explorers who go to places, take things, bring them back, and they're not going to give them back, thank you very much. And it's all about that. And they're the bad guys, right? So you're very clearly being like, this is bad, don't do that, you know. But done in a way that I think is very understandable for children, but also with that underlying thing that adults will get more. But the most important thing is that Paddington is real. Like, clearly is real, and on that stage, that was a real bear. Obviously, he was real. And it's, from the point of view of someone who loves costume, it's spectacular. Like, it's so clever. The level of movement that they have in the suit, the way the face works. Because, for people who don't know, the face is an animatronic and controlled by the person who does Paddington's voice, who is off stage. So he completely controls it as he speaks and sings. And then the body is a cast of, I think, 4 different people who play it. Particularly Ashir Shah, who is the original Paddington. She does it most of the time, and then she has understudies, because it's quite hot, shockingly, being in the Paddington suit. And they are all small people of, you know, with various forms of dwarfism. And it's beautiful to see the way the 2 actors collaborate to create the character. And it's so clever, and it's like absolutely ingenious of the costume designer, whose name I've also forgotten, because I did look it up. But she'd worked on a lot of the monster effects, alien effects for things like Star Wars and Shape of Water and stuff like that. So she is very well versed in making this kind of thing. And it's just astonishing. Like, you just believe that Paddington is real. He's there. Okay, he's not super hyper realistic. It's a stage show. He does kind of look sometimes a bit like a big teddy bear. But I think that's what you want from Paddington, isn't it? I don't think you want him to look like a realistic bear. But at the same time, they've remembered that he is a spectacle bear, so he has the markings correct for being a spectacle bear, which is lovely, which a lot of the versions forget. They just make him brown. Like, he's not a grizzly bear, he's from Peru, so he's a spectacle bear. And yeah, I cried a lot. It's beautiful, the music's great, but, you know, it's Tom Fletcher of McFly, so yeah, okay, it's going to be good. And I recommend everyone going and see it. It is a bit expensive, but hopefully it will come to streaming at some point. There'll be a pro shoot. Yeah. But I do recommend it. It is just... I've never been in an audience for a theatre thing that has reacted like that, ever. Like, the moment you see Paddington come on stage for the first time, it was just... everybody, like, gasped and, like, was cheering. Like, it was just incredible. Because they do it, like, it's theatre magic, so you don't see him till you see him. He's not there till he's there. And it's like, that's just so special. And it's going to be, like, a core memory for a lot of kids, because obviously there was a lot of kids in the audience, and they're going to remember that, which is lovely. But also for adults, it's just beautiful. And you just come away, like, literally came out, like, grinning. Like, that was amazing. I've also never been into, like, a musical where it's literally been a full house standing ovation, not on, like, opening night or closing night. Like, we're in the middle of the run, and it was a full house standing ovation. Everybody was just so happy, you know. I think if you kind of, particularly those of us who grew up in the UK, Paddington is sort of part of that. The weave of the country, you know, everyone's read Paddington or seen it in some way or whatever. And I think it's very important that we do remember that one of the key British symbols of our childhoods, and that we all take forward as adults, is an immigrant. that's his story, and that's the story of so many people in this country. I don't think I know a single person who wouldn't be able to go, oh well, my grandparents came here, or my great grandparents came here, or whatever. You know, I don't know many people who wouldn't be able to say that. That's what this country is made up of, and we live. Oh look, see, I'm gonna be all a dickhead about reform now. Those bastards.
That's fine.
And you've got people like that who are there like, oh, British values, and like, what the fuck are British values? If not, okay, most of it's because we fucked up half the world, but we did that.
Well, they never
and now
actually...
this is what that happened. That's what it is, you know.
They never actually mean British culture, because if they did, they'd be out there Morris dancing.
No, exactly, and they're not.
But they're not. They're not Morris dancing.
They're
not supporting national heritage. They're not doing any of that. So.
No. None of their policies are telling me that they're going to add funding to National Trust for English Heritage, which I would have thought would be the biggest part of British culture that you'd want to support. They're not thinking about like, oh, well, maybe we should introduce cultural folk dancing into schools, which everyone would hate, but at least it would make sense. They're not doing any of that. You know,
no.
What they mean is to be white supremacist racists.
Mm-hmm.
And they hate gay people. They hate everybody. They just hate everybody. I did start a new book. I started a new book.
Ooh.
I started reading Project Hail Mary because I went to see the film and it was great. And then I
hear the book is very good.
It is very good. It's very fun. And I want to punch Andy Weir in the face because of his ridiculous statement of, well, science isn't political. Isn't it, Andy Weir? What? Because all of his books seem to be set in a place where all countries would work together and use all their scientific achievement to create a better future. Interesting.
Yep.
This is not a criticism of the books. It's more of that's a really stupid point of view to have. The book itself, and I think he is an incredible writer. Like, he is such a funny writer. To be both entertaining and educational is a real skill. So,
speaking of science being political, we have been rewatching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Oh, fun! Okay, we're crying again. Another show that will just make me cry.
Yeah, I didn't put that together until just now. That everything that I'm enjoying right now is a very.
Maybe there's a mood in the zeitgeist right now. I don't know.
I'd have to really think about it. But yeah, it turns out that Tom's never seen Brotherhood. He read all of the manga, and then he doesn't really remember much of the other one that went off the rails. He just remembers that it started to go off the rails, and then he stopped watching it because he had read everything. So he hasn't seen Brotherhood. I've obviously seen it, I think, a couple of times. So we're rewatching it because I've also been meaning to rewatch it for a potential video essay, which has now become probably what will become a series of video essays on a particular topic. Because I wanted to do a whole thing.
Mace Hughes is the best character in this and deserves better.
I wanted to do one. It's so sad knowing where things are going sometimes.
I know. You sit there and go, if he'd have stayed alive, this probably all would have been fine, and that's probably the reason why he didn't. Massive spoilers if you haven't watched Fullmetal Brotherhood or read the manga, but you've had years.
I've been wanting to do a whole thing on the science and religion debate because it drives me bonkers whenever people are talking about it because they don't know what they're talking about. And I think that Fullmetal Alchemist is actually a really good lens to have an actual discussion of what the science and religion debate actually entails and how it's not all religion. And it's not even all science, and it's this very specific locale and viewpoint and understanding that really has this particular opinion.
I mean, it's alchemy. So that if you have any understanding of the history of alchemy as a real thing, but what it is in the real world, that makes perfect sense. Sorry, as somebody who's fascinated by historical things like that, like alchemy, it makes perfect sense. It's not religion, it's not science, it's So in the show, alchemy is kind of presented as this kind of very scientific thing. It's all very sciencey, and it's very anti-religion, and the Elric brothers are very anti-religion. And then, obviously there's a lot of religion stuff going on in that show, which I won't get into for anybody who hasn't seen it. But basically, there's a lot of discussions around it, and there's a character that comes in, I think about halfway through, maybe a little less than, who's from the quote-unquote East. Yeah.
And has this kind of viewpoint of like, what are you guys talking about? Like, that's not reality. Like, reality is that these things can work together and that they are cohesive and that you're talking about different things but also the same thing, and they don't live in these two separate dichotomies. And so I wanted to kind of focus it on that character, but now that I've started rewatching it, we're only, I think, like 8 episodes in, and I already have like 2 pages of notes. So that's why I was like, this is going to be a whole thing.
Yep. I actually need to rewatch it because I have watched all of the original series because I couldn't get hold of the manga, but I could get hold of that anime. So I then finished the manga a long time later. Yeah, I would like to watch Brotherhood. I've not done it. I actually don't think I have watched it all the way through. I think it was one of those things that I just kind of thought, oh, I'll watch it, and then I went, oh, I don't want to be in pain, so I'm not going to. At the time, I was like, I don't think I'm emotionally ready for this. So maybe I should sit down and do it. Because we've just been rewatching Trigun, so I think maybe it talks about something that wants to stab you in the heart. So I think we need to maybe do another one. My other thing that I've watched recently, and I watched it last night, and it was not good, was Good Omens Series 3.
Oh.
It was bad. It was very bad. Obviously due to truncation, due to certain events that happened. And the other thing that's super interesting is Terry Pratchett's name is not on it.
Oh.
It kind of has a novel by, but nothing else. But somebody has made it very clear that they do not want his name on it.
Mm.
And that's just interesting. I feel like we've gone a bit rambly, but I feel like talking about all the stuff we've been doing at the moment.
There's also, I think, a lot of things that we would like to talk about here that isn't really a full episode, which is also kind of partly what's going on here.
We would like to do episodes on in the future, because I would actually really like to talk about Good Omens as a franchise, if we can call it that. So the book and the show and all of the stuff that happened around it and the kind of interesting bits and pieces to do with production and the history of it and all that kind of stuff. So I will probably stop here, because
maybe we'll put that on the thing, because I watched the first season and that's it. I've not read the book.
Fine. Yeah.
And then when we saw that there was a second one, both me and Tom went,
yeah,
and
you're correct in that.
And then that was it.
It's one of those things that I essentially watched the second season, and the third season isn't a season, it's a 1.5 hour episode, and you can literally see the points that each episode were going to be, but they've shrunk together. And I watched both of them purely out of, if I'm going to have an opinion on this, I need to watch it, because everyone was like talking about it and having opinions having not watched it, because Pratchett fans do that sometimes. Not a criticism, just a comment that often that happens, and it happens in lots of fandoms. And I was like, well, I want to at least know that I'm right in this being bad, and I was on both counts, because everybody, and I think particularly a certain writer who wrote it, who is not Terry Pratchett, forgets that Crowley and Aziraphale are not the main character. They're not. They're boring when you take them out of the book. The main character is Adam. And the show forgets that too. The book doesn't, but the show does, because they took away half of the good shit that happens with him. Because, again, Neil Gaiman forgot that Crowley and Aziraphale are not the main characters. They're interesting because they're not the main characters.
You know. I think I have spoken before, even before certain news came out, that I was not a big fan of Neil Gaiman.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, I have never been... There are certain pieces of his work that I like. So I like Coraline, and I like Sandman. And then the rest of it I've always struggled with. But because I liked those two things, I always was like, oh no, I quite like Neil Gaiman, because I'd liked them. And then looking back at it, I'm like, oh no, I liked those things, and I like Good Omens, and predominantly because of Terry's intervention on it, that I was like, oh, maybe I don't actually like Neil Gaiman. I think what I like is those bits, which is just interesting when you kind of realise that, because I think a lot of the time we don't think like that. We think you've liked a piece of work by a certain person, and so you're a fan of them, rather than, oh no, I liked that piece
I'm a fan of this work, and not necessarily
exactly. Because Sandman has always held a very special place in my heart, and I think when the graphic novels themselves are weird, and I think I just quite enjoyed that they were weird. And I do like the story in it. Looking back on it now, I'm like, oh, it wasn't that good. It was just I was a teenager, you know. But there are elements of it that I still really enjoy. But yeah, no, it is weird. I think we do kind of go, oh yeah, I like that writer, or I like that creator, or whatever. And it's like, oh, actually, I liked that thing. Which, and that's fine. It happens. And everyone, I think, can enjoy it like that. Like, I think I like one Panic at the Disco album. I don't really like the others.
Which one?
It's the first one. I like the first one. Again, because I was a teenager. So it has whereas like, okay, this is an interesting argument. And again, probably something we should talk about at some point is, I love Green Day. All Green Day is good. But I have a very particular connection to American Idiot for obvious reasons. It came out at exactly the right time for probably both of us. As an album, it's a great album. It still holds up. But all of their work is good, and all of what they've done since is good. Panic at the Disco, not so much. Like, that album comes out, it's brilliant, it's really fun, it's really edgy, and then everything else is kind of, eh.
See, I liked Pretty Odd.
Okay, fair enough. Like,
but it's a very different vibe.
It is, yes, yeah.
It's a very... you don't put that on if you're in the mood for Panic at the Disco.
Yeah. It's the same thing as okay, controversial Olly take, since we're talking about the pop punk humans, emo humans, I don't really vibe with My Chemical Romance apart from Danger Days. Danger Days is one of the greatest albums of all time. It's incredible. But I think that's because I like Grant Morrison, and it's very heavily inspired by Grant Morrison, who is in many of the videos, actually, because he's friends with Jared Way. And I really, really like that it feels like a proper comic book. That's what it feels like, is it's a comic book. And so, of course, that for me, that works. Whereas, like, I like the other ones, but they don't hit me in the same way as Danger Days.
I love them. I love My Chem.
I'm shocked. You mean the sad boy guitar folk music person loves My Chemical Romance?
Also, if you put a millennial musician in a band, like marching band coat, who they're also kind of a theater kid, I'm gonna love them. Yeah. Because it's like Taylor Swift did it, Gerard Way did it.
It's alright. I watched the Opalite music video because Donald Gleason was in it. I love Donald Gleason.
My personality is entirely founded on millennial theater kids in marching band outfits.
Did you have a marching band outfit?
No, because I wasn't in marching band. My sisters were. But I
wanted to
left
pitch a little routine in a marching band outfit.
I didn't do marching band in order to do drama, so I left the marching band to do the theater.
We don't have marching bands in this country. Well, we do, but they're like military ones. They're very specific to like military organizations.
Well, America likes to take military things and make it every day.
Yeah, which is weird.
So, that's a thing. You mentioned a book that you have been reading. I have also been reading a nice book. I'm about a good halfway through it. Speaking of fascists, I have been reading Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Zafón.
Interesting.
And it is very good. It kind of takes a somewhat similar premise to a book that I was thinking about doing, and is doing it way better than I ever could. So it's making me wonder if I should even attempt something like it again. But basically the idea is that a kid gets a book from, there's a cemetery of books or something. I can't remember what it's called. But it's a special, like, hidden place that they've stashed all these books that are either going out of print or is in trouble of some sort in order to keep them from being burned and stuff like that. And it's just this huge library of all the books that essentially have ever existed. And he goes there as a kid because his dad is a bookseller, and he picks out a book from the shelf, which is a book by Julian Carricks. And he falls in love. It's this amazing book that's so good, and he gets so tied into it. And then you find out that this author is really weird and has this, like, strange mystery to him. And the book becomes about who is this author and what happened to him and why.
I love that. It's very meta.
Yes, it's very good. And it takes place in the 1950s in Spain. So there's a lot of fascism.
Heels.
And so it's a lot more about also the government and the fascist governments and what they're doing and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, in the middle of it is this guy who loves this book. And the main thing is that there's a figure that is going around stealing all of Julian Carrick's books and setting them on fire. And so so we don't know who that is or why they're doing it, and it's part of the whole mystery.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. Speaking of, I actually have another book on my desk that I have just started, which is this one, The Silver Bone. And this has been translated from Ukrainian, and it's set just after the Red Army march into Kyiv in the 50s. Thinking of... no, that's not right. It will come to me exactly when. But it's in that period of very high communist activity. And again, a very interesting conversation around somebody who appears to have grown up in the USSR, the writer, and his experience with that. And he wrote this as the war with Russia started in 2023? Yes?
Oh, geez, has it been that long?
2022. Do you want to know a fun fact? It started on my 30th birthday.
Oh.
Literally, the day of my 30th birthday. I can tell you, when I got the news came up on my phone as I sat down to watch the Lion King stage show at Euro Disney. Really dystopian, that, isn't it? To be like, oh, Simba, like, that's what happened. But yes, so he wrote it in reaction to that, taking back to the obviously earlier history of Ukraine and Russia. And it's a very interesting book, and it's also a detective novel, which I appreciate. But it is hella gruesome at points. Like, he does not shy away from the violence of what was happening at all. In fact, on the first page, that's straight in. That's where you're at. And it's a very interesting book. I do recommend it. It's very short, though, so, you'll probably be good. It's a nice, short, easy read. I say easy read. It does suffer a little bit, as often translated books do, with just getting into the flow of it, because it's not... there are certain things that you can tell are translated, but once you get past that, it's very easy. So, do recommend. I mean, I'm reading a lot of books that have been translated at the moment, because I'm reading a lot of Czech books as well, because they're a funny old group of people, and they have great, entertaining literature. I enjoy it very much. We're
all reading translated books at the moment.
I know.
Because, Shadow of the Wind was originally written in Spanish. I'm really excited by how many books there are now that are coming from other places and being translated into English, because I think it's really healthy to have that interaction with other experiences. And I know for a long time if you said you were reading something translated, people would be like, oh, that's very literate of you. And look at that. I bet you watch things with subtitles.
Exactly. As somebody who's always quite enjoyed certain elements of French cinema, the amount of people about, and I'm like, well, it's good. And also, of course, manga and anime. You go, I'm watching it with subtitles, and people go, and you go, no, it's anime. I'm not going to watch the dub. I mean, there are a lot better dubs now.
I watch the dub.
I do. I do watch the dub. But then dubs have steadily improved since the
But
the noughties.
Tom really doesn't like watching dubs, so whenever we're watching a show together, except for Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, we're watching that one dubbed, because I was like, that's the show, though, is the dub, because that's how I saw it. But we normally watch things subbed, and I do get control of it. It tends to be the dub when it's my turn. Like, this is my show.
I quite like having both. I quite like having both options, but I do think that there are some dubs that are not good.
Oh, yes.
And there are some subs that are not good, so you probably want to pick the better of the options. So since we're meant to be talking about fandom things, one of my favourite streamers, who I have been watching for years and years and years, who I probably mentioned on here before, but who has introduced me to a lot of Japanese games, is a streamer called Gab Smoulders. People might know her that she is Jacksepticeye's partner. She is a streamer in her own right, and was before they got together, just pointing that out. But she is Jacksepticeye's partner. And the funniest thing is, I saw them, they came up on the BAFTA Game of the Year Awards, like sitting in the audience, and I went, oh my god, it's Gab! And Egg went, yes, and Jacksepticeye. I'm like, I don't care about him. Gab! She is a Japanese translator. That's what her day job was before she went full-time streaming. And so she translates a lot of Japanese games into English that haven't had translations, which I think is a really interesting thing to have done, and then means that I have been introduced to a lot of game series that I wouldn't have been introduced to otherwise. And I think that's... Translators are great, and we should have more of them, particularly in public spaces where things are accessible. And it's good that more books are getting translated in a way that is accessible. So,
yeah,
yay!
I'm going to try to do I'm doing 2 kind of lifelong reading challenges. One of them... Mad. Well, yeah, because one of them is reading all of Agatha Christie's work. And then the other one is that I want to read at least one book from... I'm trying to figure out whether to do every country or every region, because the problem with country is that those change drastically. Yeah. And also certain cultural groups might not necessarily span in a particular country. And so I'm just trying to sample from as broadly as I possibly can.
Yeah, like, I think like things like my mum is currently reading a book by a Kurdish author, which would be pretty hard to pick where Kurdish people are from, country-wise, you know.
So I'm trying to figure out I haven't quite pinned out the actual, like, what it looks like
I do love that idea, though. I think
but I want to. Idea. Basically trying to read everything from the world as much as I can, at least one from everything.
I love that. I think that's a really, and I think that's just a great way to read, because I think a lot of the time otherwise we get stuck in a little rut of what we like, you know, and go, I like this. And then you realise, oh, I'm only reading that. Like, I have to say, one of the things I have realised since while reading Project Hail Mary, and having also read Mickey 7, which everyone should read because it's great, is what I actually like as near future science fiction and not any other science fiction. Star Wars doesn't count. It's sci-fi. It's space fantasy. Like, sci-fi that's like too far-flung or too sciencey in not a real-world sciencey way, I find very frustrating. I'm like, I have to be honest, I struggle with Dune. I think everybody struggles a bit with Dune. Again, I might argue that Dune is also space fantasy.
If anyone wants to really look into that, I did a whole Substack essay post on genres.
Yeah. I feel like this is the other thing, and somebody who's querying, and you'll know this, is when they go, what genre are you writing? And they give you the basic list of genres, and you go, it's fantasy, but it's not. You know, it has fantasy elements in it, but it's not a fantasy novel. Like, I would argue what I've written is a more akin to historical and political novels, but it happens to be fantasy. And it's like, how do you tell people that when they just have a drop-down list? Maybe this is just I hate Query Tracker. Maybe that's it.
That's probably it. Because I always hate, because I'm always tempted to, whenever I'm querying my nonfiction, of putting it down as pop science. Yeah. Which I know it is technically popular social science, but they don't mean social science when they mean pop science. And so, so I never do it, but there is a part of me that's like, but I will on principle.
I've kind of given up with Query Tracker. If they have another way of doing it, I will go for that way over the top, because it means I kind of have, like, I will always email. I think at the end of this episode, we should recommend some things that we've been enjoying. I mean, obviously we've been recommending the way through, but like for people to pick up. And then basically, let's give them a reading list for the rest of the series. You know, I think that might not be a bad idea. Let's have a sort of media list for the rest of the series. It's not necessarily reading, but things that might be interesting for people to get their hands on if they want to follow along. It will be very loose.
I might pull up our topics list real quick.
Yeah, because I think that could be quite fun. Since we've had a nice easy start to the series of us talking about what we've been into, let's do it. So, if we're going to give people some media to interact with, shall we say, it's not necessarily a reading list, but it's the equivalent there of, what would you recommend to people to have a look at for one of our episodes, maybe a couple of our episodes?
Well, we're going to do an episode on Psych. This is something that we talked about in one of the Patreon episodes for any of them who watched. Psych is one of my favorite detective shows. So I am obviously incredibly excited about it, and I'm very excited to talk about this. So I think if you have not experienced Psych, that might be something that I would suggest.
There's part of me that was holding off on watching it so that you could do the episode with me knowing nothing.
Okay.
But I also think that I might watch a couple of episodes just to give myself an idea of it. And the likelihood is I will binge it because it.
I could always like curate you. Show. I could curate you a list.
That could be quite fun. Yeah.
I'll do that. I'm gonna do that tonight.
I think my one is to get people to read Good Omens if they haven't, like read it, the book, if they haven't read it, rather than watch the TV show, so that they can understand what the book actually is, and why maybe I have some opinions about the TV show and ongoing series that I have. No version of it. There is a radio version as well, which has Peter Serafinowicz and Mark Heap in it, which is very, very good and very, very funny. But no version of it other than the book really captures the story properly. So I would recommend reading Good Omens if you haven't already read it. I think that's my one.
I'm probably going to bring up The Summer I Turned Pretty on a particular episode, which I guess, I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about which one that we're going to be linking some of these topics to, but I think it's, when we put this topic out, this was the particular piece of media I was thinking about.
Yeah. And I will also recommend, if you haven't, and probably none of you have, watched anything by the YouTuber Deep Pocket Monster, also known as Short Pocket Monster on TikTok, I recommend watching, because I really, really want to talk about what he does in those YouTube videos on at least, well, there is definitely one episode that I want to talk about it on. So, deep as in D-E-E-P, Pocket Monster. And you can probably guess by the name what he might be doing. But yeah, it's I want to talk about him and a lot of what is revolving around his type of YouTube content at the moment. I say this as somebody who subscribed to him. I do like what he does. So this is not, again, it will not be a critique. Well, it will be, but it will be a friendly, calm, happy
a loving critique.
A loving critique. So yeah, that will be my two. Read Good Omens, go and watch some Deep Pocket Monster.
Yeah.
I think the moment anybody opens his YouTube page, they'll be like, oh.
I will throw out one extra bonus, which is that over on my video essay YouTube channel called Incidental Mythology, I am doing multiple ones on Knives Out, and in particularly Wake Up Dead Man. Well, I have one ages ago on the whodunit structure, and in Knives Out, the first one.
Yeah.
Then I put one out on nostalgia and the way that Rian Johnson uses his nostalgia into classic detective novels. Particularly, it was inspired by Wake Up Dead Man, but it kind of spans the entire series. I have another one that's going to be coming out by the time this is out. It will be out, which is going to be on the anthropology of grace and aspects of reciprocity theory in Wake Up Dead Man. And I'm going to be having a third one coming out on the interplay of mythology and ritual and belief in also Wake Up Dead Man. So there is a lot. We're going to also be talking about Knives Out in the upcoming series, and so I'm sure a lot of these thoughts are going to be coming out at some point. So there's always that. And also a little plug from my other channel.
A little plug for your other channel. But yeah, I'm really excited for what we've got coming up in the next series. I, like I said, have been a bit in a pit for the last few months, and that has been a struggle. So it's nice to be coming out and doing this and being with you guys. So yay!
It's nice talking with you.
Yeah. Maybe we should do it all the time.
Oh my god, you like me.
Alright guys, thank you so much for listening. We are so excited to bring you the new episodes of this series. They're going to be so fun, and thank you for enjoying our ramble. If you got to the end, well done. And I hope you go ahead to your media engaging list. I don't know how to describe it. Go and engage with some media. Yay! Goodbye!
Bye!